Yeah. Philly streets got a story to tell. Golden sun breaks the Liberty Bell. From the Trattoria to the stoop outside, feel good vibes in the city's pride.
Fuji's Philly flair, oh, it's everywhere. Good news flying like hands in the air. Hip hop grooves with a twist so rare. Fuji's Philly flair, we're living the care.
What is going on, everybody? Thanks for the waiting on the delay here. A couple glitches. Tonight, welcome to another episode of Fuji's Philly Flair. Tonight, I'd like to welcome my guest, Mr. Billy Zanghi, Billy Z of South Philly.
What's
Bill,
going on, everybody? Nice to be on the show. Flattered to be here.
Bill, welcome to Fuji's Philly Flair. I want to thank you for coming on. You know, it's been a few weeks since we were, chopping it up about getting this off the ground, and I'd like to welcome you to Fuji's Philly Flair.
I appreciate it. Really glad to be here. Lot to talk about.
Big time. I was like yourself. I was originally born in South Philly. You know, I wasn't raised there, but former Mafia Associate. Your great uncles were a bloodline going back to the Mafia back in the 1930. Can you touch on your old glory days?
Absolutely. Yeah, the good old days. And like I said, Mike, your podcast is real. I'm flattered to be here because you speak from the heart. You're real. There's a lot of podcasts that are just not on point, but I've listened to a lot of your shows and everything's on point. But my thing, what my father's father, Vincent Zanghi, his brothers, Anthony and Joe, they were notorious gangsters in Philadelphia. They fought Sal Sabella for position in Philly before I was born. Mm-hmm. But as I grew up, I heard the tales of Skinny Razor, of my grandfather, of Nicky Scarfo. I mean, I grew up around them all. I mean, St. Paul's School was right down the block from where we lived. Mm-hmm. But what my grandfather's brothers, unfortunately, Anthony, Joe ended up getting shot, and Anthony, unfortunately, turned out to be a rat, which was no good. Even though his family, you can't rat. Once you rat, you never go back, and then you're worthless. You know what I mean? Right. So if you're going to do it, and you're going to do some horrible things in this world, do them, and if you get caught, do the time. But all these guys, all family men, took care of their family. Mm-hmm. Good people of men, respect, loyalty, honor, like yourself and myself. But we did what we had to do, and that's life. But don't think for a minute, like I had said on another podcast, these guys come over, they have coffee with my father. Mm-hmm. My mother cooks for them. It goes way back, all the way back, even when I was in my 6 years old, 7 years old. But then when they would go out and be told, of course, from Bruno back in the day, Scarfo, Testa, all the captains, you got to do this, you got to do that. Then they would just do it. And that's life, you know?
All right. I mean, you really go back to, like you said, your uncle and both of your uncles, I should say. You know, you talked about how they were involved in it. And, I know back then right around the Prohibition era, the Depression, it was, can you tell myself and the audience a little bit about, what you learned about your uncles,
Well, of course. I mean, look, killers. I mean, it is what it is. Notorious gangsters. Between my uncles and my grandfather, my father's father and his brothers, they got rid of 1,000 bums. I mean, it is what it is. Right. Because if they don't do what at the time, I guess, way, way back when they were under Bruno, and then when Bruno got blown up in the 80s, but this is even go farther back in the 30s, when they were fighting against the Sal Sabella, right, and Joe Ida and them guys, I mean, it was an all-out war. Right. But, that history is deep, and I'm proud of my history. And even as I got into my teens, I was always close because they gave my grandfather the nickname Muskie Zanghi.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when they were told to do something, they had to do it. But as I got older, my father told me stories. Sure, who went this way, who went that way, who got buried, who got shot, who got mutilated. And a lot of it's still public knowledge, but I could tell you history from my end, from my family and my stories between my grandfather and his brothers, my uncles,
Mm-hmm.
and family. That's what they did because that's all they knew. They were born into it. And even myself, I was born into it too. As time went by, as years went by, I always did little things. But my thing was I was always trusted. And if I had never moved to Vegas in 95, I could have done some things and probably got made too, just like a lot of my other friends that I grew up with. But, you know, things are the way they are. It is. But I get visitors now and then, you know, kids I grew up with, May guys. And, you know, it's nice to see them. It's nice to still have that bloodline going all the way back.
Right. I know you were talking about your dad, not being on the outside, not being in it. And you told me about your mother basically said the one day that was it Frank the Barracuda Sindone dropped them off.
Yeah. Frank the Barracuda show. Him and my father. It's him, my father, Phil Testangelo, Bruno, Scarfo, Joe Chang. Let's see, who else we got? Chicky Narducci,
Mm-hmm.
Sal Testa. You know, Sal Testa was a kid. Of course, Joey Molino and that whole crew. They were all kids. Joey's got around 6-7 years on me. But my father worked a little bit with Sindone, but he also did 46 years at 7-Up Bottling Company. But my father was more like the person that Testa and Bruno, when they would come over for coffee, they would talk to him and they would say, Zanghi, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So I guess in my growing up, was considered him an outside consigliere. You know, he would try to make the peace because Bruno never wanted to kill anybody unless it was absolutely necessary. Nicky, you looked at them the wrong way. Forget about it. Once he said you were going to go, it could take years. You would go. I mean, Frankie Delfonso, they stalked above the fruit store on 9th and Christian, where I even used to go hang out. And then they finally killed him because he didn't want to pay tribute. But, you know, whoever didn't get in line, they went. But Sindone came home with my father in a limousine. My mother seen him, 718 South Hutchison Street. And from the story, from what I was told, is it's either him, them, or me, which is my mother. So he stayed with my mother. But don't get me wrong. My father, when he came home at night, my uncle Anthony Zanghi had the Turf Club. They roll around there. Jerry Blavitt, Cousins Little Italy, Tommy Del Giorno, Nicky Carmandi. Unfortunately, they flipped, but that's life. You know.
Interesting. I mean, it's me. I mean, like I said, I've always been a Mafia historian. You know, I followed it. You know, it's just reading up about it, and whether it's Philly, New York, the commission. Just going back, the old days. When it originally, came over from Sicily, where it originated. I got two comments here. I got Mickey Delaney checking in, saying, "Hi, Mike. How you doing, Mick? Thanks for checking in." I got my colleague Andrew Cabbage, who does the sports show. What's up, fellas? Thank you for checking in, guys. Bill, I want to get into, let's go back to 1980, really, where all this really started, March 21st. Angelo Bruno, I know Carlo Gambino, I believe was married to his cousin-in-law somewhere. Carlo Gambino didn't believe in drugs. He died, and it seemed like that there was a changing of the guard. I believe, from what I've researched, that Tony Bananas
and Caponegro, sure, they made a very, very fatal decision, thinking that they had the commission's authority to kill Bruno.
Right.
They were way off base. And you've seen how that turned out. And that Snake Stanford, You know, people say, well, he was just in a car. Well, somebody had to roll the window down that night.
Right.
And my father, and I'll never forget it, I'll take it to the grave with me. He says, son, he was just here this morning for coffee. And just like that, boom. And because he ate at Cousins that night, which was right around the corner from where we grew up.
Mhm.
And Del Giorno had the place, and the original Cuz, may he rest, good as gold. Bruno used to go in there and eat all the time. But they had it set up to where they were going to do it that way. But then look what happened. They put tests in, and a year later, those maniacs, a year later, those couple maniacs, Marinucci, the kid that built the bomb from Bookbinders, Teddy DiPietro, two lunatics,
Right.
and Narducci, may he rest. He was a stand-up guy, but he was misinformed too. Then they blew test up, and that's when Nicky snuck in, and there you go. You know, yeah. But
Well,
I mean, yeah.
now, when you talk about Tony Bananas, I know it was Frank the Barracuda Sindone was in on it. Angelo Bruno's cousin, John Sindone.
Yeah, big conspiracy to get rid of Bruno because he didn't want to, you know, he was doing things on the side, but he didn't want the soldiers and the captains to do them. So, it was, you know, he was kind of like a double banger in a lot of ways, but a good man. I mean, when I would come home from St. Paul's, they would always be bullshitting in the kitchen. But after Bruno got killed, the next day Testa was over my house talking to my father. And he would always say, Zanghi, Zanghi, Zanghi. He says, you know, so my father says, well, obviously it was a plot. So now you're in charge, so you got to watch your back and whatever's going to happen in the next year.
I know when Tony Bananas and I think John Sindone, his brother-in-law, were called to New York under, forget it. I know it was, give me a minute. I know it was Vincent the Chin Gigante was there and basically, you know, said, you got to go. Like, and that was pretty much it. And I know they pretty much tortured Tony Caponegro. You know, they stuffed money in his
anus. Yeah, beat him to death. Bats, pipes.
Just for greed. And they said they made him suffer for days. And
yeah, well, look what they did to Frankie Delfonso before they killed him. They beat him right in front of the water rice stand. It was Salvi Testa, Gino Milano. See, Scarfo, not saying Salvi, but Scarfo, he initiated all these wild kids. These kids that didn't really care about cracking somebody over the head with a bat, stabbing them, shooting them. They just wanted to be cowboys. Bruno never opened the books to kids like that. So, you know, and that was the difference. But yeah, they broke almost every bone in his body. And when they had him at the hospital, he said he got hit by a truck. You know, so it sucks.
When let's go on to Nicky Scarfo here because, you know, I know he stabbed the gentleman in the Oregon diner right in the heart and was
with a butter knife. You know, the pressure to stab somebody in the heart with a butter knife. That's how ruthless he was. Yeah.
And then I believe after that, Angelo sent him down to Ducktown in Atlantic City, and that's pretty much
he banished him because, you know, he didn't have people like Nicky in his regime. He had more level-headed, in the shadows. But Nicky wanted to be out of the shadows because when the casinos came to Atlantic City, I think it was 86, he was like, well, I'm tired of all this bullshit. I've been slaving down here for peanuts. It's time to make my mark. That's when they started Scarf Inc. right around the corner from my aunt's. My Aunt Joni had a condo. So I used to see them all the time on the beach when I was a kid and everything. But they were always gold to me. Scarfo, Leonetti, the Merlino, the whole crew. Because it was all backdated back to my grandfather. You know, and even when they used to come in Dante and Luigi, you know, the night they shot Scarfo Jr., I was in the back cutting bread. And I said to this guy, Tommy Salerno, nice guy, he was a waiter. I said, you hear firecrackers? It's Halloween. He says, no, but I think they're gunshots. So we run out, and Scarfo Jr., he's in the bar. How he lived is a miracle. So, you know, because I worked at them.
Was there ever like the reason why they like Nicky Scarfo Jr. was when the attempt on his life? I mean,
well, yeah,
he really have that much power.
Well, the new faction wanted to send a message to Nicky, who was away, and he wasn't coming out no matter what. He was trying to keep a hold on things as I was a teen growing up. But once he went away and he wasn't coming out for 100 years, They figure, you know what? This is the message. And they tried to get rid of the son. But unfortunately, he's doing, wherever he's at, doing 30 years for all kinds of stuff. And then the other kid, Mark, who hung himself because he was embarrassed of his father's name.
Right.
But, no matter what, I don't care what your father does. Your father made you. Never be embarrassed of his name. Embrace it, whatever it may be. You only got one father in this life.
Can you touch on the? I believe it was probably definitely in the mid '80s after Scarfo took the regime of the reins of Philly, and I know we chatted about this about Vincent Falcone. I think this happened down in
Atlantic City.
Was it?
Yeah.
I was going to say Margate or Avalon, somewhere down there.
Falcone was always running his mouth that Nicky and Phillips Construction, the concrete was bad. Always talking junk, which was a fatal error on his part. Because my father used to tell me stories. I mean, I could talk forever. And what did this Falcone think, that Nicky and his nephew were going to let that pass? I mean, his nephew, Leonetti, was raised from birth into it.
Right.
And Skinny Razor DeTulio, that was Scarfo's mentor. I mean, back in the 30s and 40s, around my grandfather's brothers and uncles, I mean, like I said, they got rid of 1,000 bums, but they just didn't get rid of them by, shooting two in the back of the head, like you say, tortured, buried, electrocuted, all kinds of stuff. They had that Johnny Veazey on the show who was drilling holes in people's knees, collecting money. So it's not just about, pulling the trigger. It's about people wanting people to suffer. But they got Falcone over to that little condo, and that guy must have been delusional because he says, go make us a couple of drinks, and you're going to turn your back on those two guys. Right. But where Scarfo, unfortunately, that the plumber, Salerno, I think his name was. Right. So Joe Salerno, here's a hanger-on who's doing all Scarfo's work, right? Using Scarfo's name all around town. So Scarfo sees that, so obviously he thinks he wants to be, part of the regime. So he figures, well, let me bring him in on this. But as soon as Philip put two in Falcone's head, and then Scarfo killed him again, like he said, I wish he was alive so I could kill him again. Then Salerno went right to the FBI, and they tried to kill him and his son. So they all got jammed up with that.
I recall Salerno wrote a book called The Plumber.
The Plumber, right?
I believe that was his trade, and just like how, reading that and watching some documentaries saying like you, just to touch on what you said, like I think Scarfo was like half shot in the ass, and he was like, jumping up and down, like saying, this is great. Let's do it again.
He loved killing. He loved cowboy style. But on the back end, if he was sitting at this table now, may he rest in peace, he would say, Zanghi, you grew up, you're a good guy. God bless you. Your mother, father made a rest. They were the neighborhood. They were what South Philly was good for. These people, these keyboard gangsters that talk all junk about this, or they're murderers, they're criminals. No, that was their life. Right. Civilians never got killed. They didn't kill children. It was like the army, you kind of like going out there. No, it wasn't like the army. I'm sorry. You know who you're going to kill, but you got to stalk him and do what he tells you to do. And that's it. In the army, you shoot, you don't know who you're shooting at.
No, when you get into the rankings of La Cosa Nostra, it was the boss, the underboss. It was like a military.
Right. The captains, the soldiers.
Your capo regimes, your soldiers, the street guys.
Yeah.
And everybody fell in line basically like a military.
Yeah, and then one guy, look at Jerry Blavat, the geeter with the heater.
Right.
Scarfo loved him. But if it wasn't for Jerry Blavat, Scarfo couldn't have had a lot of things. A lot of things were in his name through the years. He was always on the boat, the usual suspects. Never forget Tommy Del Giorno said one time on one of these shows, he says, you got 30 Italians with Rolexes walking in for dinner. We're not the mob. So,
Right.
Yeah, a lot of things.
But like you go back, Mafia Well, Cosa Nostra nationwide. I mean, Sinatra was pretty much connected to everybody.
Of course, of course. You know, they said that the mob is the mob still in Vegas? The mob never left. I worked at Bally's 25 years. I was just in a fair, I think I told you, for a good friend of mine, Mike Leonetti.
Right.
He does the Leonetti variety show. Awesome guy. He had an affair.
I saw you on that show.
So he just had a benefit. He had an affair. So I told my wife, I said, Suzanne, I said, see that guy next to him, which I won't mention his name. I says, look at that antique. I says, he's probably in his late 60s, 65. I says, but I don't forget a face. Used to be in Bally's all the time. And in my opinion, what that guy that I seen Saturday night, he was one of the guys that still control Vegas. But he left into the shadows, and that was it. So they're still around. They're still around. You know, look at it, the movie Casino, Rosenthal, Spalatro.
Right.
They had Vegas handed to them on a platter, but, you know, they screwed all that up. That was insane.
Well, you know, you're, like you say, you're in Vegas. I mean, you know, look at Bugsy Siegel started the bingo out there. And, you know, like if you go out there today, I mean, I know they have a Mafia museum. Can you touch
We got
on
the Mob Museum.
Right.
And if you came out here tomorrow, I take you to the Italian American Club, and you'll see all the history, because that's where all the guys now, they're sitting at the table who secretly still run Vegas, but they're all on oxygen. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
They still got their hands in a lot of different things, but it's not like the old days where, you know, people would lend money to dealers and charge so many points a week, so many points a month. It's bigger than that. Right. You know, people, these guys want tribute from people already established. They don't want to deal with five and diamonds, you know. And, you know, that's the way Nicky was when he started that street tax. Right. Either you were in line with him or you weren't. But hey, when he went to jail, Salvi Testa fought that war with Riccobene. And, you know, Salvi passed in 84. I was 15. He was 28. So when I was like 11, 12, 13, he used to sit next to me on a bench and he used to say, hey, Zanghi, how you doing? His father, Joe, was my best friend. But Michael got killed in the summer of 93. I was working at the saloon. They just left, walked back to the clubhouse, came out, and Coletti and Veazey were right there. Two wannabe gangsters who stand for me and said, you want to kill Joey Merlino? And they knew John Veazey was a nut anyway. I can't believe they put him on that show, Mafia versus Philadelphia.
Well, yeah. I recall, I haven't seen it yet, but I pretty much have seen past documentaries of that, you know, on that war when it was ongoing. But, you know, Veazey was like, yeah, somebody offered me $10,000 to just, you know, like, you know, where's the money? And he claimed Tampa never gave him the money up front.
Yeah, you know, that guy, you could have seen I mean, he took 2 bullets in his head. He got stabbed. Frank Martinez and Al Pajamas, they couldn't even do a job. They couldn't even kill this kid. That's how tough this kid was. But this kid was a little locomotive, freight train. If you showed him money, he didn't care who it was. I mean, he would kill. That guy, Frankie Baldino, that got killed. Nice guy. Right. Yeah, Melrose Diner. Had nothing to do other than he knew Joey as an acquaintance friend. Wasn't a made guy, wasn't in the regime. He was a bartender. But Stanford said, whoever knows him gets a bullet. And even this guy, Johnny Riggy, at the post on 8th Street, they end up shooting him. And I don't know what's going on with him today, but he was paralyzed when I got out of Philly in 95. But I'm coming back in a couple months. I'm going to take my wife after the New Year visit. Go get a cheesesteak, go hang out. My first visit, of course, is I got to come and see you and see some of the other guys.
Let's
definitely.
I should have brought this up, but I wanted to bring up one of the pictures. I believe it might be your 2 uncles. I should have brought this up. Can you go back to the 30s?
You got my father in the middle and Tommy Anastasio on the left. Man's man, stand-up guy. And then you got Johnny Bellardo on the right. But my father and those 2 guys, growing up, they did a lot of different things before my father worked at 7-Up and married my mother. I mean, that was the neighborhood. But Tommy and Johnny would have died for my father, and vice versa. See, that's just sometimes, like I tell my wife, Suzanne, I don't have a gray area. If you're with me and you do right by me, I'll kill for you. I'll go to jail for you. But if I sense treachery, larceny, deception, what's the point? I like to leave you wherever I find you. Why be involved with that? Align yourself with good people. But then again, on the back end, Salvi Testa's best friend set him up, and we know that story.
Right.
So, it gets a little, it's like a vicious cycle. A vicious cycle.
Well, I mean, back to little Nicky. I mean, it's I know they were talking about the whole thing where Sal Testa was supposed to marry Joey Merlino's sister, and Sal broke it off, and it just seemed that the word on the street was they called Sal Testa the Prince of the Philadelphia Mob, and I guess his paranoia over the years just got to him. Like you said, Joey Punch, I believe it was not Caramondi, Tommy Dell. No, it was Caramondi. Like you
Caramondi and Iannici, yeah.
And they lured him into that candy shop on Passyunk Avenue, and they took him out.
Yeah, and Wayne Grandy shot him in the back of the head. He made his bones, got his button.
Right.
If Salvi would have did things differently, I wish there was two different scenarios. If he would have got Joey's dad, may he rest, good man. All the Merlinos were aces with me. And I'm not saying that just because I'm on the podcast. I seen him every day at the saloon. Phenomenal. Right. The Mazzone brothers, Stephen and Sonny, George Borghese, Marty Angelini, Michael Ciangelini, may he rest. Like I think I had mentioned to you for my wedding, between the five of them, envelopes and stuff, they gave me like $6,000-7,000. And I wanted to have them all at the wedding. Right. But my father was sketchy about that, and my mother-in-law and all that stuff. But it is what it is. But I wish Sal would have went with Chucky and talked to Nicky and said, look, I love your daughter, but I'm not ready to get married right now.
Right.
But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. And then they start, the other guy, Fafi, and Del Giorno, Carmandi, then they start making up all these different things. Salvi's not doing this, Salvi's not doing that. And this was what my dad was telling me back then. And that Inquirer article buried him because, they said he was next in line. No, he wasn't next in line. He was a captain. Scarfa was the boss. If Scarfa ever went away forever, then Salvi, of course, would have been the boss. And, who knows what would have happened back then. Right. But Salvi had a big group of loyalists. They were more loyal to Salvi than they were to Nicky. But, of course, whatever Nicky told Salvi, Salvi did. I mean, he fought the wars against Riccobene. He lost his arm eating clams on 9th Street. How many times they tried to shoot him. But a year later, after his father got blown up, then he was able to get his revenge. He got rid of Noguchi and anybody else that was in. But that Marinucci and that kid, the Petro, well, Marinucci suffered. But the Petro, he ran right away to the feds. I'll never forget the story. I'll let you laugh. My father said Salvi and Nicky went into bookbinders to look to size this kid up. And he said that they said to him, this kid made that bomb. And by then he was already in the feds. So, but Marinucci, he was another guy. He wanted to be, he was a wannabe and wanted to be a made guy. And he hung around with that Pete Casella. He was his bodyguard.
Right.
So, yeah. But as a kid, you would see him all around.
Well, when you go back to, when they blew Phil Testa's house up in Girard Estates, I mean, they said that they tried to make it look like John McCullough's guys and the roofer guys were behind that.
Yeah, right, with the nails.
Yeah, with the nails and the bomb.
Yeah,
but that homemade bomb that they built.
But they said, and Philip's son Salvi, he was smarter than that. And then of course Nicky.
Let's see. Looks like Billy froze a little bit there.
They killed him right in front of his wife. So,
Yeah, you were freezing up there for about 10 seconds. You're good.
Oh, good.
the glitches of
Oh,
podcasting.
yeah, forget about it. I know. I was just talking to a few friends from back east. I asked them, they said I could mention them, but like it's my kid I grew up with, he's older than me, but treated me like old Benny Marcella.
Mhm.
And my mentor when I was a kid growing up was my neighbor, Frankie DiGirolamo, Frankie D. He's still around. They're back there. But I haven't been back since my father passed away in 2011.
Mhm.
So what? Almost 14 years. But if I went back, it'd be like I seen him yesterday. You know. So some people move away and they move away to have different lives to change. I moved away because I had the job at Bally's out here. I
Mhm.
just got married. And I wanted to come out west and see what was going out here. You know.
What would you say Vegas can? Well, I'm sure it's definitely two different worlds. I've never been to Vegas, but it's on my bucket list to get out there. What's the atmosphere like?
Vegas is 24/7 run and gun. You could go as high as you could want to go or low as you want to go. Whatever you want is here for the taking. The best of everything the world has to offer. Uh, as long as you got a few connections and you got those Ben Franklins,
Mm-hmm.
everything moves. Money, money moves people. Club lines. When I used to go to clubs, this is way back. There was this ghost bar. It's still at the Palms. Used to see people standing in line hours. Should I tip the guy $5? Should I tip the guy $10? Well, my first wife, I used to go to the brunch, the Four Seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Met this guy, Jack Davis. He was a host there. He said, Billy, anytime you want to come up to the Ghost Bar, just let me know. So I called him ahead one time. But you show respect. I gave him a couple hundred. But every time I went after that, I still tipped him.
Right.
But he spread the waves. He spread the lines, opened the lines up, let us in, let me in. I
Mm-hmm.
would love to take my present wife, who saved my life. She's amazing, Suzanne. The highlight in my life. Believe me, 2 years we're together. March. We met at the gym. Most amazing woman, amazing, unreal, beautiful family, and that's how I lucked out because I was ready to sell this house, my home, and get back to Philly, and just get back in the mix of things. But we have some ideas that we want to do later on in life. Maybe move to Hawaii, do something else. But
Right.
Vegas is the best. Best food, beautiful rooms, beautiful sights. They got the football, they got hockey. Now they're making the baseball. Then eventually the basketball will follow through with a new stadium.
Right.
So yeah, but you also got to remember Vegas in the seedy parts, just like back east. I see a little bit of history on Kensington. Kensington got a little crazy up there.
Too crazy.
I see it, and it's heartbreaking.
It is.
Now,
It's very sad.
yeah, it's heartbreaking. Now out here, you got North Vegas, and it's a war zone down there. I used to run this bar after Bally's called Kickers. It was in the middle of two shelters and a place where they would do plasma. But my friend said, "Come in, clean the place up, work graveyard. I'm tired of people stealing,
Mm-hmm.
tired of people doing all kinds of stuff." So I did it. I worked there a year, but I never went there unless I had the piece with me. You think I was going to get murdered down there for what, $12 an hour? Forget about it. But I was lucky. I was here 3 years, and I had my own little crew that I missed, but they're all away. And then I left the bar. But yeah,
Yeah.
but
I
we
mean,
have beautiful things out here. Beautiful.
I got a quote. I got a Alan checking in asking me, does Billy have any idea what happened to Jimmy Hoffa?
you know, you know, as far as back as I can remember, I think personally, the movie The Irishman portrayed it the best because Russell Buffalino, who Joe Pesci played,
Right.
and Fat Tony Salerno, they kept telling this guy Al Pacino, who played
Jimmy Hoffa.
Jimmy Hoffa, lay low, back off, lay low, back off, lay low. The man didn't have that in his DNA.
Right.
So, like when Frank Sheeran's talking to Buffalino, De Niro's talking to Pesci, and Pesci says, "We got rid of the president. You don't think we could get rid of this? You know what I mean?"
Right.
And that's what I think happened to him. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, the original one with Jack Nicholson was good too. That's another theory.
I actually think. I mean, Jack Nicholson played a hell of a Jimmy Hoffa.
Unbelievable.
All due respect, that phenomenal actor that Al Pacino is.
Amazing.
It was apples to oranges.
Yeah. And then they
And
made that other movie, Alto Nights, where De Niro played Costello and Genovese. That was really a go.
I didn't see it. I actually heard it wasn't that good, but everybody has their own.
You got to see it to enjoy it because
Right.
if you like you with all your history and knowledge of everything, you'll appreciate it. The only thing I didn't like is that they made the Chin out to be like he was like dopey and dumb. Meanwhile, he was sitting on the commission of the five families.
Right.
And after Castellano got killed by Gotti and Ravana, when that went down, he wanted Gotti dead. But
right.
in the movie Gotti and in real life, when they blew that car up, the concierge, like he says, they gave you a pass that's 1 for 1,
Frankie
and life goes on. Frankie DeCicco.
Or you're referring to, because I know there's multiple, there's the one John Travolta did, which was just friggin' terrible. I mean, the one Armand Asante played a hell of a John Gotti in the HBO version. I don't care what anybody said.
He was the best.
I think Armand Asante nailed that role.
If you closed your eyes, you were thinking you were listening to John Gotti. Some just came up online about when his son, that accident that John Favreau killed his son on the bike.
Yeah, hit him with the
bike. So people were making all these really disparaging comments. I mean, the poor kid's passed away, saying that he was a little wise ass because who his dad was and this, that, blah, blah, blah. So I told this lady, I said, let me tell you something. I says, that guy, accident or not, he could have went over there 1,000 times and begged for forgiveness.
Right.
But anybody in their right mind that would think that guy wasn't going to disappear had to be delusional. It is what it is. It is what it is. You kill my son, accident or not. I want you breathing. My niece died out here in 97 in a car accident with her boyfriend. They were fighting, 19 years old. And he still breathes today. If I had my way, he'd be buried in the desert. So my sister's still mourning all these years later. But we have one niece left. Yeah.
My condolences to you. And
horrible. 19. Yeah.
Got a couple questions coming in here. My good friend Miguel saying, "What's up with the mob? What's with the mob today? New York, Philly, Vegas, Chicago, etc."
Well, there's still the commission, and all the big guys sit on the commission in their own respective cities, and even in Philadelphia. But it's quiet. It's not cowboy style. It's in the shadows. Things are handled differently. They'll have sit downs. They'll have little meetings. Somebody gets out of line. It's not like when Scarfo was running it, automatically they're killed. Right. If they get out of line enough, they're going to get a beating first. And look, is this kid or whoever, man, whatnot, is he going to wise up? And after the beating, he should realize that he's going to wise up. If he doesn't, then things happen. It is what it is. Yeah, but they're everywhere. Yeah.
Also, Cole County Entertainment asking, is The Godfather the most realistic Cosa Nostra movie of all time?
Well, Marlon Brando, I would say 100 million%. Yep, 100 million%. Because he ran his family. You see how he started, Jenko Olive Oil. And then Michael was in the army. And then once they shot his father, he says, I'm with you now, Pop. The one brother, Fredo, what was he going to do? And he ended up ratting on his own family. And of course, they killed him. That's the way Michael was in the movie. But it's in real life, too. Look at unfortunately, Michael Chang and Joey Chang.
Right.
There was,
two different sides of
Yeah.
Or
Joey Chang was with Stanford. Michael's on the other side. You know, that's why that thing 30 years later, that documentary, it was good 3 parts. But, you know, like, why bring it up now? Like, it's pouring salt on an open wound, like for Michael's widow. Joey does cheesesteaks, does podcast. He's a great guy. And like you say, he'll tell you himself, I was never involved in the mob. And that's his point. That's where he stands. And that's what I respect. I mean, you know, go home, have a cheesesteak. He's a great guy. But people think, oh, this or that. They don't understand. They don't understand. You know, that girl that they had on that show for 3 episodes saying that Nikki Scarfa was a cokehead. I don't know where they dug her up at. Yeah.
I didn't hear that. Was that recent?
It was in one of the episodes. She was a blonde.
Oh, okay.
And and she said,
the Netflix episode, documentary. All right.
Nikki was a cokehead. Nikki never did drugs. All them Italian wise guys, usually bourbon and whiskey, Johnny Walker Black on the rocks, my father, Southern Comfort and ginger ale. They never mess with cocaine, none of that bullshit. You know? So, I mean, it is what it is.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm glad I'm alive, breathing, doing my thing. I still talk to all my friends back east. Love them all. Wish them all the best. I always tell them, you know, stay out of trouble. Nobody wants you to go to college. I didn't like going to college. And, you know, it's not the best place to be. The only good thing about college is if you go and you know you're going to get out in a certain amount of time, say 5 months, 7 months, a year, then it's manageable. But when you're handed life or 30 years or 40 years, you know, look at Joe Ciangolini. He never ratted, most stand-up guy in the whole world. He made it out after 37 years, and he lived 8 years on the street. He relaxed. He enjoyed the sunset. I talked to his stepdaughters, Jennifer and Maria, you know, sent flowers, sent my condolences. His wife, Marie Malone, their mother had passed away. Beautiful people. But, you know, they live right down the block. Yeah, so. Yeah.
When you were I want to go back to The Godfather a little bit. And I trying to think I'm saying this correctly. If not, let me know. I know they were shooting The Godfather. I believe they said they had members of Cosa Nostra on site, and Francis Ford Coppola had to change up some things. I don't know if you heard that or anybody watching the show has heard that.
Well, my dad growing up, and even, you know, The Godfather, like I was probably 8 or 9. And as you got older, of course you would hear stories, because the mafia doesn't want to be portrayed other than really the right way.
Right.
You know, the capo regime, the boss, the underboss, the concierge, the soldiers, the associates, and then the ones on the outskirts. Because, you know, just like in the movies when they say, you know, a made guy isn't going to talk to another guy that's not made. You know, friend of mine, a friend of ours.
Right.
A friend of ours, he's in. But if he's a friend of mine, he's just an associate. So, you know, when I was at this affair Saturday night, when I did that show, the Leonetti show, you know, I enjoyed it. It was great. He's a phenomenal man, been through hell and back. But I just stay, you know, kind of like in the shadows. He's a good friend. If he wants to get together for dinner, his wife, it was phenomenal. But his personal life and business, that's his stuff. That's nothing to do with me, but I'm always there for him, because it's really hard to find caliber people. And that's the only people that I want to breathe air with, are people of caliber. You know, anybody else, you know, forget about it. I got no time for. But The Godfather, they even did it to The Sopranos, the Gandolfini. They said a mob boss never wears shorts.
Yeah,
you know,
I recently just saw that. Somebody called him up like the middle of the night or something.
Yeah.
That a mafia boss don't wear shorts.
Yeah. And a lot of those guys, you know, Tony Sirico, they grew up in the mob. I mean, he was in
Oh, yeah.
Goodfellas, Big Pussy, Vincent Pastore.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine in New York, they made the series Gravesend, William DeMeo. He was in so many
A
movies. I
lot
mean,
of movies, a lot of stuff.
he did so much, and he's so gracious. Every time, like, I just shoot him like a message on Instagram, say, "Hey, man, God bless. Just the season's great. It's great." But he always told me, he said, "Billy, he said, if you lived in New York, he said, of course I would put you in. But being in Vegas, there's really not many things as far as like acting, as far as wise guy stuff. It's kind of far and few between. I mean, my friend Benny, they're going to film something back in Philly, and Vincent Minetti, who's a phenomenal filmmaker. I was on his podcast.
I was actually, just not to cut you off, I was
Yeah.
about to ask if you could talk about his show. And matter of fact, I did reach out to him about coming on my show eventually, maybe in January. And
Definitely.
like the 15-minute segment he did at Washington Avenue.
Right. It could have been more to the point. Yeah.
Can you touch on that?
Of course. It was absolutely the way things happened before any of us were born. I'm talking the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. And those sit downs, and if someone jumped in that knew you and vouched for you, then you would get a pass. Right. 99.9. But he did something that really was never done on screen. And it was just 15 minutes, but the intensity of it. And Sal Mazzata, who played the boss, like he said, if he didn't jump in, things would be a lot different. Because if you extend yourself to, say, for example, a May guy asks you to do something, and you're not made, but you extend yourself and you have to deliver, and you don't deliver, you got issues. You got problems. When I was a kid, I just put it on TikTok. I seen a friend of mine. And I'm going to mention his name because it's the truth. His name was Joe Fisher. We were standing on a corner. I probably was 12 or 13. This other kid who was just a wannabe, just a neighborhood rat. Well, I slipped and just said something I wasn't supposed to say. Just happened to come out. But before you know it, it's like Joey says, well, so-and-so heard this. Now they don't want you around anymore. So it's like, well, what am I going to be killed over something like stupid? And there was a sit down over that. And this is when I was probably 12. Well, no, I would say like in my teens, 15 or 16. But Joey vouched for me. And then the other kid who said that stupid thing that supposedly I said, they dealt with him in their own way. But it's better off really less said the better in anything. I talk on the show now. I'm just talking history, knowledge stuff, things that I knew, not implicating anybody, just the real life stuff. Right. People think what they see on TV doesn't happen in real life. No, if you're out of line and you do something wrong, you're either going to get a beating or you're going to get 2 in the back of the head, and that's the end of your life. But that's the life you chose.
Right.
You're not going to get it like sometimes in Vegas, these gangbangers, they just go shoot people up for no reason. That poor girl in Amsterdam on the train, she got stabbed. You see that?
No,
the African-American, he ended up pulling a knife out and killing her for no reason whatsoever. So, crimes like that are horrific to me because it's, they just shouldn't happen. These random acts of violence are horrible. Horrible.
It's, I was watching snippets of Skinny Joey's podcast. He had something on, like, forget, I don't know who him and Snuff had on, but they were talking about just like how these younger, like not even young kids, like anybody's just everybody's like over medicated, and like all these school shootings are just, like Joey said, never heard of a school getting shot up when we were little.
Not at all. And he gave the best advice. He said, you want to stop the school shootings? You get the military.
Yeah.
Put them at each door, and whoever comes up, kill them. That's it. Done. Right. We just had that happen at one of our gyms out here. some idiot decided to wake up on the wrong side of the bed. He walked in with AK-47 at Las Vegas Athletic Club. You can look it up. It's out there. He killed the manager. Luckily, the gun jammed. Then he tried to run out. But as soon as he ran out, this one Metro guy, which was our police force's Metro, he turned around. He looked like the Terminator, and he buried him. So, it's ridiculous. It's just like, if you want to, before you want to go hurt somebody else, get rid of yourself. Go dive out a window of a building before you do something to risk somebody else's life,
Right.
Yeah.
Wanted to go
no,
back.
Vincent Miniti's, this guy, his brother was my best man at my first wedding in 92. This gentleman, he just built himself up. And I've seen him with all he's done. It's just amazing. And he did so much for me, just like you did, like putting it out with the podcast. I'm so appreciative. And, it's the little things that matter. And that's where my loyalty till death comes in. Because like I said, I don't have a gray area,
I wanted to go back and ask you about the Irishman. Now, I know Frank Sheeran, I believe, wrote a book, and they said in the movie that he claimed that he did kill Jimmy Hoffa, where I don't believe it anyway, but
I personally think in the first Hoffa, when they got him and they put him in that truck, in that big truck, and him and Danny DeVito were waiting, I think they just got him. They might even put him in a trash compactor, compacted the car. His lives were up. When all these people of power, the commission people, Gigante, Salerno, I don't know if Carlo Gambino was alive at the time, but they're telling you to shut up, keep a low profile, and you still go out there. Look what happens. Look at the kid I grew up with, John Costasanto, Johnny Guns. I don't know if you ever heard of that kid.
Yeah, I remember you.
All right. So this kid was a wild card. You throw the deck up in the air, you didn't know what he was going to get. Very loyal to me growing up. He always says, I like you. Because one time I was down at the Key Club, and a friend of mine, he had a credit card. I mean, it is what it is. That's what the kids did back in the day. And he was buying Tattinger's Rosé, Dom Perignon Rosé. And he says, Billy, he says, there's Johnny. I says, well, get him whatever he wants. Send him whatever he wants. So we always had a good rapport. But his lives ran out when he didn't decide to, lay low a little bit. Lay low. And that's, I miss him to this day because I was always around him. And even South Test, I was a kid, but I still miss him. And the way he had to die, some things shouldn't happen. But
when you talk about South Testa, and I know this was brought up to you on that Mob Tales that you were on, what were these gentlemen? Let's put the mafia, the gangster side away. What were these gentlemen like from like a human side?
They were just like the rest of us. We all went to Bishop Newman. We all went to St. Paul's. We all got married at St. Paul's Church. But certain ones decided to go certain paths. Salvi didn't have a choice. His father was, with Angelo Bruno when Salvi was born.
Right.
What Salvi also was a very well-respected tennis player who used to go play tennis down the pier. He was going to buy the pier. In the neighborhood, he was good as gold. There was a story that my uncle Frank told me, my cousin Nikki's father. And my uncle Frank was a big dice player. And he's my only uncle left now. Everybody else passed on. But he said, one of the neighbors went up to Salvi and said, this neighbor with this horn, what are we going to do about him? What are you going to do about him? Salvi turned around and said to me, says, this guy gets up 5 days a week. He goes to work. He minds his business. He doesn't cause anybody any problem. Forget about it. He'll get the horn fixed. I guess something happened when he would turn his car off. The horn would keep beeping. It was in the middle of the night. So, what did they expect Salvi to get just because this guy's horn to go whack him, get rid of him? they had no idea what the procedures, just like in anything. Nobody's getting killed over a horn, you know?
Right.
Somebody's getting killed because they did something they weren't supposed to do, or their time has expired. But Salvi, Nikki, Joey, the whole crew, when I worked at the saloon from 90 to 95, in for lunch every day, laughing, bullshitting, you know, normal guys, anything. But me personally, I'm proud, and I always will be proud till the day I die. I had the end, meaning that because of my grandfather, if I wanted to pursue things and move forward in that area, I could have. But you just don't kill somebody and say you're a gangster. You got to be proposed. You got to be handpicked, and you got to your loyalty, trust, and respect has to be earned. You know, look at that Ralph Natale. I worked with his daughter at the saloon, and he ended up being the one a charade gangster,
Right.
and ended up ratted. And then the cop Ron Previte used to see him. Previte used to see him around, and I always used to tell my friends, "There's something's not right with this guy." You know, you could tell if somebody's right. Me personally, because I always felt I got 1,000 senses. I could look at you and tell if you're going to be okay or you're not going to be okay. And you know,
for those that don't know, Ron Previte he was originally a Philly cop. I believe that was dirty.
Yeah, robbed everybody.
I know he joined, the Stanford faction for some years, and then after Stanford went away, I believe he flipped and went to the side of Joey Merlino and was just like, a snitch, and was playing both sides of the fence. I forget how many hours of tape he had on him, and was just, ratted
he ratted on everybody. But Stanford, even the commission back then, I think everybody was a little delusional, because once Garfield went away, they didn't even give that faction the opportunity to fill in because all their uncles and dads and everybody was away. So that faction at the time, they fought tooth and nail against the Stanford. I mean, here's a guy, they're just putting him in there. He never knew nothing about Philly. Right. My friend Vince, the bodybuilder, you see him in the episode. He used to have to give him directions to go here, to go there. Now, his son, when they shot him on the Schuylkill Expressway.
Right, I remember.
Remember that?
Yeah.
That was after they killed Michael. And I used to kid around, because I never knew the deep details. But I used to kid around. I'm like, well, if you're going to do something, anything, just throw a grenade through the car and get rid of everybody. That's what I used to say. Well, what's the shooting, wherever you're going to shoot on highways or whatnot? Grab a couple grenades, fling them through. And, so that's why with that VZ, even though he was a little mushad in the brain, when he got something, he wanted to do something, he went right up to the Baldino window, killed him, which was horrible.
Right.
But, and then when they killed his brother, they thought it was a different faction, but no, it was kind of like brother for brother. You killed my brother, I'm killing your brother.
John VZ, right?
Yeah, Billy VZ.
Billy VZ, rather.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a victim of circumstances. He should have stayed in his own life, never told his brother to rat.
Right.
After they failed trying to kill him, VZ should have just disappeared, went back to Italy, or did what he did, try to kill them. Because I always said, when I was growing up, I said, if Joe Punch would have told Salvi on that day, driving him to the candy shop, Sal, I know you since you were in diapers, this is what's going to happen. I think they would have went out in a blaze of glory. But then people say, well, Scarfo said he was going to kill his whole family. Well, if you get them before they get you, then you got a shot,
Right. So. Friend Sean Kilrain checking in and said, what's up, guys? Family from South Philly, 31st and Reed. My mom's side, dad was from 29th and Tasker.
How you doing, Sean? Good to see you. Good to hear you. Enjoy a Philly cheesesteak at Skinny Joey's. So,
Hey, phenomenal steaks. Not
yeah, my sister and brother-in-law, they've been frequently the place. Yeah, they love it. And I got to tell you, that's another thing. You know, Pat Steaks, they had little words going back and
yeah,
forth here
the
and there.
T-shirt that came out.
Yeah. I told one of my friends, I said to him, I says, probably in a few months, that'll be a parking lot, that corner. You know, like,
Well,
what's the point?
I don't know if you saw what the T-shirt said. It said "F Pats and F the Rats."
You know, if you rat, you're the lowest form of anything because you can't recover. I don't care, Sammy the Bull. He's got 19 murders. He's got his podcast. He looks like death today. Now, don't
It looks
forget,
horrible.
he's
Looks
still
like
as
death
dangerous.
pouring over.
Right, he looks dead, but he's still as dangerous as ever. He has no problem burying anybody. That's the way it is. Same with Michael Franchese. The one guy I like is the Albanian guy, John Elite.
John A. White. Yeah, it was a hitman.
John Elite.
Was a hitman under John Gotti Jr.
Yeah. Now here's a stand-up guy, really a man's man. Because I did some history homework with him, and he did all his time, never turned. Has his podcast. He's around with a lot of different people. Good friend of mine, Larry Mazza. He was under Greg Scarpa. He got a pass once. Yeah, I think we had talked about that.
What's his name?
The Reaper.
The Grim Reaper. Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
that was a sick man.
Yeah. Oh, he
New York mob.
Yeah.
Well, he was an informant. He was an informant, like Whitey Bulger.
Right. Yeah. Playing two sides against the middle.
Both sides of the fence.
Yeah. Larry came out a long time ago. He did the Mob Museum. He did a speaking engagement. He was a real nice guy. He's in Florida now, and he runs a gym. But, you know, these are guys that are good guys, just like when you say the human side of them. I'd be going to St. Paul's, Bruno Testa, once in a while, Scarfo, because my mother went to school with them, so she would cook a lot for them. And other mothers in the neighborhood would cook, too, for the guys, because the hangout was on the corner, Hutcherson and Catherine. We even had the jackets. It was amazing. You know, growing up, we were like the little wannabe gangsters, the kids, just like in Goodfellas. Yeah, Bronx Tale.
Yeah.
Goodfellas. That kid from Bronx Tale, Leo Brancato, I wish him the best, but the opportunity that he had then unfortunately got thrown it all away. Yeah.
Well, yeah, especially when he was involved in that robbery or whatever, and that moron he was with shot the cop or whatever, killed the cop.
Yeah. Killed the cop, and you know, that was the end of his role. But he had the golden ticket from Willy Wonka, that kid. And unfortunately it got screwed up because the Bronx Tale was amazing. I seen Chaz's play out here.
Yeah.
He does every scene, every part. And a lot of those guys were from the neighborhood that he had put in that movie.
Well, right. You know, it was his life. You know, he played a great. I know De Niro. I believe Chaz Palminteri was a bouncer, and I forget how it came about where De Niro saw something with the play, and he went to Chaz Palminteri and said he wanted to direct it. You know, direct the movie.
Right. Yeah. And then it took off. Like, yeah, he says, I'll direct it. You direct it. I'll star in it. And, you know, De Niro's, the part he played, there's hundreds of thousands of dads through histories have played that same part in real life to keep their sons away from that, you know, area. But you know what? The little kid, he wasn't doing nothing wrong. They loved him. He did little things here and there. But you see the night when he took Sonny's car and they thought he put the bomb under it.
Right.
That fast, they could turn on you. So, you know, it's a sketchy life. But like this guy, Gas Pipe, this Casella guy.
Anthony Gas Pipe Casso.
Yeah, right, Anthony Casso.
The New York mob.
He just put an interview out. He goes, and he's doing life. He says, the guy asked him, he says, what was it like being a gangster? He says it was better than being a Hollywood star. because when Scarfo came in to the city on Hutchison Street, and everybody knew him and knew Salvi and the whole crew. And when I was at the saloon, I seen everybody every day. I busboy, bartended. Now you got to know, saloon's been there for 100 years.
Right.
I was lucky enough to get that job. 1990. Richie Santor and Tom Tucker hired me. Two of the most loyal, wonderful human beings that God created. They gave me my life because, before that, I was working on 9th Street, working at 7-Eleven, developing film, hustling, doing little things. But I never really made any good money till I worked at the saloon. I'm talking legitimate money.
Right.
But even legitimate money, then it's just like there is back there now. Football season, you call the games in, give me a dime here, give me 3 dimes there. Making some good money, doing good.
Oh, that was.
But, it was phenomenal. And that's how I paid for my wedding. That's how I got my first house around the corner from the Melrose, And I was married 27 years out here until I came home, found the ex with somebody else in bed, did the wrong thing, was away for a while, came home, fought for everything. And I met Suzanne 2 years ago, the best part of my life. So, you get lucky, I guess. You do get lucky. You do get lucky. But it takes a little while. God works in mysterious ways, they say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sean had one more comment saying, I guess he was saying, thank you. I'll definitely try to get down to Joey's cheesesteaks. Then he said, I would hang out at the Deco Club after hours with my boys, would always see Joey Merlino and the crew there.
Joey was always around. Joey loved the spotlight. And even today in the legitimate world of life, he loves the spotlight. But he's real. He's real. I mean, and this is public knowledge. There's nothing to say that wasn't out there because that's not me,
Right.
Sometimes when I look at him, I tell Suzanne, I feel like I'm looking at a ghost because how many times they tried to do this, they tried to do that, right? But the best part is Philip Coletti's wife, when she tried to put cyanide in his drink, and he says on the podcast, he says, I wouldn't even look at her. She was so ugly.
Well,
So,
I remember him saying that.
He's a trip. But I'll give you a story, and he'll laugh about it because it's not a life or death story. And It's not a wise guy, where we're all going to go to jail tomorrow. But the kid who was valeting one night at the saloon, Joey left and he had a few in him, and it was funny. And the kid was just a prick cocky. So Joey tried to stab him in his fucking heart. Excuse my language. With the cocktail fork from the shrimp cocktail.
Right.
And that's a true story, funny story, but
Right.
And then again, the Schuylkill Expressway story was a funny story too. Because we used to work. We came into work in a couple of days. You would hear, "Hey, anybody see the holes in the van? Anybody see what happened?" And of course, everybody says, "I didn't see nothing. We didn't hear nothing." So a lot of fun, a lot of crazy stuff.
Right. And one more comment here from Sean saying, yes, absolutely right. He tells it like it is, and people don't like that shit like that.
Hey, his own uncle died, and the niece called him because his Uncle Lawrence ratted.
Yeah.
He said, put him out in the
garbage.
Put him in the
trash.
Put him in the trash.
What he said.
Yeah. Hey, I love my family, right? My aunts. I had the best uncles, best cousins. I was born 20 years late. 2 sisters, 75, 73. They would do anything for me. But when I had my little situation, I was on my own. I had to do my own thing. And, what do they say as soon as you go into college? The first thing you do, if you show weakness, you're done.
Right.
So I was pretty lucky because I aligned myself, of course, with a group of Italians, other people that were in there for different things. And, did my time, no problem. I'm alive, breathing, and just taking day by day. Yeah, Vegas.
Bill, I want to touch on an old school restaurant. Some people may know, others may not. I'm going to go back to Palumbo's.
Hi.
And I know you know about that place.
Palumbo's CR Club.
Right.
My mother, may she rest. She threw my father's 50th birthday party there. Bobby
Mhm.
Rydell sang.
Wow.
So my dad was 40 when he had me, so I was 10.
Hmm.
It was a great time, great place. Anybody that was in the mob connected was a
Hmm.
Palumbo's. Any affair, everything was a Palumbo's. Frank Palumbo Sr., great guy. Frank Palumbo Jr., remember him.
Hmm.
Uh, that was the spot. That was the spot. It was right around the corner. My cousin Louis used to valet. He passed away. He had cancer when I was a kid. But yeah, Palumbo's. It was always them couple. Palumbo's, uh, Ralph's Restaurant,
Yeah.
Villa de Roma,
Hmm.
Cousins,
Little
the
Italy.
Medici's, Dante and Luigi's.
That's.
Yeah, you
Remember
know.
Frankie Seafood Italiano?
Frankie Seafood. I know Frankie Storiani. He used to be a waiter out here at the Palms. He went back to Philly,
Hmm.
but yeah, Frankie Seafood, and of course John's the roast beef, roast pork on Tasker was the best.
It's still there.
It's still there. Okay.
Matter of
Uh,
fact, I think it's right off Delaware and Snyder. Right before Front and Snyder.
there you go. Yeah, my sister and brother-in-law, they live. I think they live right around the corner. Da Vinci Estates. They had
Mhm.
a house on Edding Street forever, around the corner from Newman, and they retired. But I have my niece Lauren back here, who married her husband Dave, and they have two beautiful kids. My nephew Blaze, my niece Brielle. So we do FaceTime a lot. I'm looking forward to going back and see everybody. I want to take Suzanne and say hi, and just catch up. But I'll tell
Yeah.
you, you never know. I may end up back here for good because I says how we'll sell the money, get the money from his house, have
Mhm.
cash. They got some beautiful places in Center City.
Oh yeah, that's really upscale,
Yeah,
especially more
absolutely.
now than ever.
Yeah.
Real posh.
But like I tell Suzanne because she lived all over the world, but at one point she was North Carolina home base, and she said, "I would love to go back to North Carolina." But I'm saying, "Hun, you go back, your friends are there, but everybody's got their own life.
Mhm.
Even when I got married, we had I was on Colorado Street. There was a little club around a corner. I would see kids here and there that I grew up with, but the only time you really get together is really during the holidays,
Right.
when they had the Italian festival. Growing up, we used to go to the Baritza a lot, 15th and Locust.
Mhm.
That's where my friend Frankie D, he ran the whole place. I mean, I talk to him all the time. I love him to death. He was my, I would say, mentor idol growing up because he taught me things like that like that your parents can't teach you. You know, we always had new cars, ambassador leasing. He always had suites down the shore, just everything. And at the Barrett's, everything was always carte blanche. But even
Right.
in Vegas, you got to take care of people. You
Oh,
know, you yeah. But
one
wise
hand
guys,
washes the other.
yeah. But with the wise guys, everything's on the arm. Nobody pays.
Right.
That's a golden rule.
Right.
They tip a lot, but nobody knows. Forget about paying. Yeah.
Short Kilrain was saying 14 East Snyder Avenue is John's roast pork.
Okay, there you go. And it's probably still the best as ever. Still the best as ever. I mean, like I said, I could go back to Philly, go in any of the boroughs, any of the neighborhoods. I always was proud. I used to tell people when I first moved out there. See, it was hard when I first moved out there and worked at Bally's because nobody knew anything about respect. So I'll be honest with you, I had to brace people every day. Like you have no idea. Like bartenders. Like I started as a bar back, right? You
Mhm.
work an 8 hour shift. A bartender hands you $2 when he's making 300. So you brace him. You say, "Yeah, you want to crack his head," and he goes, "Well, you
Right.
should be thankful you got that." So through the years, once I became bartender and then I was running a few restaurants, I was here 25 years. I always made sure whatever I made behind that bar, I always split with the bar back because that's
Right.
just me. But when they say when Palmentieri says when he asked him, he said, "Would you rather be loved than feared?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, it's a little bit of both. I
Right.
like to be loved because I'm a good guy, but you want a little bit of fear that if somebody knows a certain thing, just leave you alone, let you stay in your own lane, and there'll
Right.
be no issues. Yeah.
Right. Well, Bill, I know we could probably keep going on here.
Forever, for hours.
I mean, want to thank, for you coming on and, deeply appreciate it.
Look, Mike, from the minute you clicked with me, I want everybody, the hottest podcast in Philly, Philly Flair.
Thank you.
You're not going to meet, and I never met him in person, but I talked to him in the shadows on Facebook. You're not going to meet a more stand-up guy, a real guy, because I know that. And I
Thank
know
you.
if I was there now, we go out, have a drink, go get something to eat, and bullshit till the wee hours of the morning.
Right.
And I'm glad your daughter had a beautiful birthday. She turned 21, right?
Yes, sir. Thank
On
you.
the 5th. The 5th, right?
Yeah, a week ago today.
Yeah. I had a point at, yeah.
Thank you.
Make one point. And yeah, definitely go into this podcast. I was lucky to be on the Mob Tales.
Right.
Eventually, I would like to have my own podcast, with people out here that lived through the era of like Spilatro and Rosenthal and do things now that just want to talk and talk about history, talk about the mob, talk about how important it was growing up and in our history. But unfortunately, all things can't be seen through rose-colored glasses.
Right.
So, if you do good, good things happen. If you do bad, bad things usually are going to happen quick in that area of life.
Well, I mean, if you really look at it, mafia history is a part of Americana.
America, yeah. It'll be around for 100 years.
Like you said, originated in Palermo, Sicily, and made its way over to, especially before, the Depression era. I mean, a lot of people were, especially just speaking for Italians, just nobody wanted to work a lot of hours, and you look at the old time guys like coming over like Carlo Gambino coming over from Sicily and like working their way up, got involved with different things and
Yeah,
back in those days.
self-made men,
Right.
Self-made men. I mean, when I got here in '95, because I just left Philly, I used to get, and my brain would explode because I would send the early lines back. And I'm being honest, I missed that because it doesn't really happen much anymore because I'm not on that page right now. But
Right.
money was good. I wish I was home for this weekend to answer the phones.
Well, I mean, well, now you got me wanting to get into the whole. No, I mean, it was. I don't know. To me, it's an hypocrisy with this government. Now you got me fired up. Gambling was illegal everywhere outside of Atlantic City and Las Vegas, and now it's DraftKings. It's all bet. All these casinos, like you could bet on any. You could bet on 2 cockroaches in a race.
Anything.
Like
It's
crazy.
unreal.
And it's
Yeah.
back in the day, you would be busted for anybody being taking bets on the phone. Now it's like the government. Now you got the government in on it, and it's a friggin' joke. Making money legally. It's all right though. It's legally in their eyes, but back in the day, you'd be thrown in jail.
They got people at the supermarkets now with sidearms because the government took away all the SNAP benefits that people were getting.
Yeah.
So some people can't even feed their families.
I know. That's.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I hope all that changes for people because everybody has to eat. Everybody's got to survive, and it's a daily grind for a lot of people.
Well, especially now you're getting into the cold months. Well, at least somewhat here on the East Coast, Midwest. Thanksgiving's coming. The holidays are coming.
Yeah, we love the holidays. Suzanne's going to have her friend and her partner over, just the four of us. My sister, my brother-in-law, he's got a million family members, so they'll be over there. Maybe we'll go back and forth, but holidays are different in Vegas when you move out here. It's
Yeah.
more low-key, quiet, and I like it that way. It's okay. I mean, we live up in the hills. You can't, but if you want to go down where the action is, like Friday, we're going to go dinner, movie, my birthday, hang out.
Nice.
You know,
That's right.
yeah,
Your birthday is this Friday, right?
yeah, 56. I made no progress.
Happy early birthday.
Yeah, time goes by, man. Time goes by.
We got one more. Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
But
No, I was going to say my guy here, Alan, checking in saying, bunch of bums need to get back to work.
that's right. That's right. Everybody's got to work. We got to work. And whatever kind of work you do, whether it's 9 to 5 or you dig a hole out in the desert, that's like,
You haven't dug any holes, have you, lately?
There's a few. I got a few empty ones that I'm waiting to fill. Believe me.
Out there, couple plots there.
There's a few plots. Yeah, with definitely a few names on it. And they know who they are. Yeah.
Alan says, "Happy birthday, brother."
Hey, thanks. Tune into your show. Enjoy your show. I had a great time being on it. Phenomenal.
Thank you for, like I said, we could chop it up more, but maybe we could go till midnight, but nah. I'm sure we could if we really want to throw it out there. But Bill, I want to deeply appreciate you coming on and taking your time and talking about, old school history, from, being in your shoes and seeing what you saw growing up, especially, South Philly, just chopping it up. I, deeply appreciate it.
I appreciate you. And like I said, myself personally, I'm always proud of my roots. I'm always proud of my association with the different eras of the mob, the old timers, the young ones, and what's going on back there now. Now it's quiet, low key, the way it should be.
Right.
And if anything needs to be looked at or someone needs to be brought in to be talked to, it's done differently because now there's no wild maniacs, everything is it's a different era right now, which is good for the city and the certain neighborhoods where, people like, if my mother was still alive, could walk around and not feel threatened,
Right.
So yeah, great. I appreciate being on the show.
Anytime, I'd like to have you back over.
Definitely.
My pleasure. I appreciate it, and
Thank you.
want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight and hanging in there with my guest Billy Z here from South Philly. Everybody, God bless. Have a good weekend. Call somebody. Check in on folks, because you never know what anybody's going through. Mental health awareness is very serious.
Definitely. You need support. Love everybody. Align yourself with the good people, the ones that don't have your best interest at heart. Forget about it. You got to stick with the ones that when the going gets tough, they're going to be with you.
Right.
Yeah.
So everybody have a good night, Bill. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, a good weekend, and happy birthday.
I appreciate you guys. Love to everyone. Okay.
Thank you.
Philly streets got a story to tell. Golden sun breaks the Liberty Bell. From the Trattoria to the stoop outside, feel good vibes in the city's pride.
Fuji's Philly flair, oh, it's everywhere. Good news flying like hands in the air. Hip hop grooves with a twist so rare. Fuji's Philly flair, we're living the care.